It's cold, I'm grumpy, I need gnocchi. It's the perfect treat to fill me up, but I'm gonna put a nice light twist on it so I don't feel guilty. Because there's plenty of people in my life already to do that. To the kitchen. Alrighty, it's time to make our gnocchi, so give yourself plenty of room to work. I'm going with 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Make a nice deep well for your eggs and to mix them into a 1, a 2, a 3. Normally with homemade pasta, I don't season the pasta itself, but because it's such a thick dough for gnocchi, I'm going to add some salt, some pepper, and just a little bit of olive oil and start mixing away in here. You just want to beat the eggs really nicely and then slowly incorporate your flour into it until you form a dough. The idea here, especially with gnocchi, is to not overmix it. So as soon as it comes together, ditch the fork and gently fold it together to form a dough ball. This really shouldn't take too long. Again, we don't want to overwork it because we want nice, soft, pillowy gnocchi. Some people love the potato version of gnocchi. I like it both ways, but today I'm just going straight up flour. You can see the cool texture in this dough. I'm gonna get it in the fridge for at least 20 minutes, covered little plastic wrap or just a plastic Tupperware container. Once rested, I'll get it onto a very lightly floured work surface. You don't want to add too much flour, just enough so it doesn't stick to your surface. I will cut it into 4 even pieces, working with 1 at a time. And now I just want to roll it into that, long cigar log looking shape. I like to keep it pretty rustic. We're gonna cut this anyway, so as long as it's somewhat even going across, you're good to go. Roll out your other pieces so you have 4 even rolls. And I'm going to use a bench cutter here. You could use a pizza cutter, a butter knife, anything you want, because it's so soft you should be able to just cut through it very quickly. And there we go, we almost have gnocchi. I will cut the rest of these, and it's so much easier if you just combine them once you get the hang of it and just cut right across super quickly. And boom, 1 pound of gnocchi right before your very eyes. Really doesn't take too long once you get the hang of it. Before we talk about our lemons, let's talk about shaping our gnocchi. The whole point of gnocchi is to be soft, delicious, make me happy, and really soak up whatever sauce they're paired with. There's a lot of ways to do this. Some people just take their finger and give it a good poke for that indentation. If you don't have a finger, you could use one of those cool pasta boards that they sell. If you don't have one of those, you could just use a fork. If you don't have a fork, subscribe to my channel and I will send you one for free. But it's real simple here. You just want to kind of create those ridges across the fork. There's real no rhyme or reason to it, as long as you just kind of get those shapes so it'll soak up the sauce. Some people do it on the fork, some people kind of do the fork to it and then roll it over kind of method. Whatever works for you, as long as you get a little bit of ridges to your gnocchi, you're good to go. Again, keeping it rustic. They don't have to look identical. Some are kind of short and fat, some are a little bit longer and skinnier. As long as they're close to the same size, they're going to cook evenly, which is what we're really after. But these bad boys are now ready to go, so we will get a large pot of boiling water on the stove, hit it with plenty of salt. But before we actually start cooking these, I want to get my sauce going. I'm going for a nice light creamy and cheesy sauce, so the base is going to be ricotta cheese. Very common to put ricotta into the gnocchis themselves, but I prefer it on the outside into the sauce. Also going to hit it with some nice salty Parmesan cheese, as well as a lemon that I'm going to zest over top. This will just give it some nice acidity and a nice fresh light brightness to it. I shall season very well with plenty of black pepper and just a pinch of salt. We don't need too much salt right now because of the salty cheese. And I'm going to throw in just a little bit of garlic and whatever fresh herb you have on hand. I'm going with parsley today, and just a drizzle of olive oil just to kind of give it a little bit more richness. Then you want to fold that gently together. Fork probably isn't the best choice, but just be delicate with it until everything kind of mellows out. Taste it and adjust for seasoning. Let it do its thing while we get our pan going. I'm going with mushrooms here. I'm not using any protein today, so this is kind of my meat substitute. These are baby Bella mushrooms that I cut up pretty small. I'm just going to let them go dry without any oil or anything in the pan first to kind of get out the moisture. Once they get about halfway through, I'll throw in a little bit of olive oil and then a whole bunch of shallots. You could go with just onion and garlic if you want, but I have some shallots today. Once those sweat out and cook down for a while, I'm going to throw in some peas. Funny story about peas, I didn't used to like them, now I do. Now you can see why I'm not an author for a living. And I'm also going to go with some sun-dried tomatoes. These have been julienned, jarred in oil. The oil gives it some nice flavor, so I'm going to throw that all into the pan. Now it is time to deglaze our pan. I'm going with white wine. I don't believe in cooking wine. I think you should use a wine that you would actually drink to cook with. Obviously nothing too fancy like a 77 Chateau Mémé, but a decent Pinot Grigio works just fine for me. Scrape the pan with something safe to pick up the flavor. Let it reduce to its syrupy consistency. Perfect time to throw our fresh gnocchi into our salted boiling water. Since there's so many, it might reduce the heat a little bit, so you might just need to turn it back up just to make sure it gets to a nice simmer. Give it a good swirl so nothing sticks around. And these really don't take too long. When they float to the top, I would just test one to make sure that it's cooked through for you to your liking. But once you see them all floating at the top, you should be good to go. And with the magic of halfway decent editing, we will add these directly into our pan because we want to finish cooking these into the pan so they really soak up everything else in the pan along with the sauce that we're about to add. Give them a good toss. And honestly, honestly, you're good to go right here. If you just want to throw some grated cheese on top now and eat them just like this, you can see with the mushroom, the tomato, the peas, this is a really good dish as is, but I want to throw in my ricotta sauce just to give it that really great creamy cheesy taste to it. The lemon's really going to shine through. It'll melt kind of naturally, but if it needs some help, I'm going to take some of that pasta cooking water that we reserved. Not only will it help it get more of a saucy consistency, but there's good starchy flavor in that as well. And this looks like a heavy, rich, creamy Alfredo sauce, but with the ricotta and Parmesan mixture. It's super light, but also creamy and cheesy and lemony. It's just the perfect balance to go with these gnocchi. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of fresh lemon juice over top, give it a taste, adjust for seasoning, and it is time to plate. Grab yourself a big old bowl. I hit it with a little bit more fresh grated Parmesan cheese on top. And this is why I love a shaped pasta like gnocchi, because the sauce kind of brings them together, but they also kind of hold their own integrity on their own. They're soft, they're pillowy, they should kind of melt in your mouth, but they also pick up whatever's on them so well because of those little ridges. I'm gonna get a bite full of all the goodness in this bowl here. You can use whatever you want. Obviously, ingredients today I like, and I feel that they all complement each other very well. I'm gonna keep popping these one after another, because much like David Ortiz, they don't call me Little Papi.